November 27th, regular business meeting of Waynesboro City Council, and I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. If you wish to speak during the public hearing or citizen comment period, please sign up on one of the sheets in the back of chambers. And Mr. Short, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Item 3 is the adoption of the meeting agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the agenda is approved 5-0. Item 4 is matters from mayor. The only thing I have, and I'll let Mr. Wood elaborate, I'd like to remind everyone about the parade this Saturday. I believe it is, starts at what time? 6 o'clock. Okay. And it should be a great time, nice and chilly for those, so bundle up.
There is a new route too that is published, I think on the city page, so if anybody wants to see where the new route is, that way you get the prime looking spots. I would look at that before you go.
In the early candy if you have kids.
Right.
Okay, item 5 is matters from council members. Does anybody have anything? No? All right, item 6 is consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that passes 5-0. Item 7 is upon application by VM Acquisition LLC. We're going to hold a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance rezoning properties located at 1010 East Main Street from HB Highway Business, H1 Heavy Industrial, and RG5 General Residential to MXB Mixed Business. Hello, Ms. Alisand.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. So yes, tonight is an application to rezone 1010 East Main Street, otherwise known as the Metal Crafters Building. This is located on the eastern side of Waynesboro, off of East Main Street, sort of right there at the corner of East Main and Hunter. It's the main building. Just a quick look at some of the surrounding uses. To the north, you've got Patch's Mobile Home Park. You've got the Sunoco and the Future Sunset Park across the street there and the railroad tracks, along with some residential and commercial uses. Down to the south, you have some residential, a mix of townhouses and some single family. And then, of course, off to the east, you have Union Baptist Church along with South Delphine. So the property is currently zoned 3 different ways. The first way is a highway business, which allows all of our commercial uses along with some light industrial ones. It's meant for those businesses relying on close proximity to major transportation routes, and also restricted those areas along the main arterials and highways. The second district is our heavy industrial district. This allows certain commercial uses and some of the light industrial, and then all of the heavy industrial uses. It's meant for sites meant to provide sites for major transportation terminals and manufacturing facilities that have a greater impact on the surrounding area than those in the lighter industrial districts. And then the final district is our RG5, or our General Residential District. This allows our medium density residential uses, single-family attached, detached, duplexes, townhouses, multiplexes. Here is a quick look at how that property is zoned. On the western side and eastern side is the HB with the heavy industrial in the center of the property where the main building is, and then the residential is on the southern side. The applicants are requesting to rezone the property to MXB, which is our mixed business, and it's one of our newer zoning districts that allows a range of commercial, industrial, along with residential uses. It was created to provide a greater flexibility in these areas with housing that's in close proximity to some of these legacy industrial and commercial structures, and it's meant to encourage business activity along with redevelopment while also ensuring that there's reasonable quiet enjoyment of the neighboring residential property. And it's used in these areas with the existing mix of these industrial residential structures. So brief background On the property itself, it was home to Virginia Metal Crafters till about 2006, and it was purchased by the applicants in 2013, and they then began their Phase 1 improvements, culminating in the opening of Basic City Brewery in 2016. They began Phase 2 improvements in 2022. Those are still underway. They're not quite complete yet, but the building is home to several new businesses, including Hap Coffee Roasters, Commonwealth Crush, The Foundry, etc. The applicant is looking to fill the additional empty space in the building, and the current zoning doesn't permit all of the current and potential future uses for the property. And some of these future uses include retail, food service, office, production, and then also possible residential, although that would be permitted by a conditional use permit at a later date. And the rezoning to the MXB gives the applicants the flexibility they need for depending on what uses might locate there in the future. So here is a quick look at their concept site plan. You have the larger parking lot off to the west, along with some parking in the rear, and that wraps around to Hunter. This is where Basic City is currently located, and this here is that main structure, along with East Main running along up here. This is a look at our 2008 comprehensive land use map. The red area is the commercial retail, where the yellow area is that medium density residential, and this rezoning does conform with the land use map. As far as transportation and access goes, the one thing about this particular district is that it does permit for 50% reduction in the required parking. However, this site is using a shared parking agreement, in part because the site already has limited parking capacity. And that shared parking agreement allows users to share the provided parking according to what the business is, and then also their hours of operation. Right now, the site, or according to the site plan, there will be 294 parking spaces provided, and the applicant has proffered that a minimum of that 294 spaces will be provided on site. So should the rezoning go through, there will always be those 294 spaces provided on that site. As far as utilities go, the utility lines and other connections are present. Public Works noted their standard comments that the water and sewer capabilities aren't reserved until the systematic squeeze is determined, depending on the uses. And then also they recommend an investigation of available fire flow to ensure the uses comply with city and fire code requirements. As far as landscaping goes, there is a mix of existing vegetation along with Class B and Class C buffers provided along that southern boundary with the residential areas. And then I'll also note that the businesses currently operating there are operating under temporary certificates of occupancy, and this is because those Phase 2 renovations are still underway. And these the outstanding items that need to be completed are things like the landscaping, the stormwater facilities, the paving and marking of the parking areas. But the applicant is steadily working towards completion of these outstanding items. And so finally, the East Main corridor is a mix of these former industrial, commercial, and residential properties, and the subject property is being redeveloped into a multi-tenant mixed-use space, which is the type of property this zoning district had in mind. And therefore, staff is recommending approval of this application with the proffer that a minimum of 294 parking spaces be provided on site, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval with the proffer on a 6-0 vote. That is all I have for you this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also here tonight.
I do have one question. Can you give me some examples of what a Class B and C buffer would be?
So our Class B buffer is our 15-foot width buffer, and it's a mix of shrubs, a couple canopy trees, understory trees. The Class B buffer is a 20-foot width buffer, and it also contains a mix of the shrubs, the canopy tree, understory tree, and then also a fence or wall.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
How many parking spaces do they have there currently?
Currently that are in use? That might be a question better answered by the applicant. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'm not sure how many the venue itself requires. I would have to need to look into that and get back to you.
I'd just like to know how many spaces are currently there, and I know they're getting ready, I think, to expand some of the parking or pave some of the parking, so, correct?
Yes, and once that's finished, they will have the total of the 294 spaces.
I'm just trying to figure, from what I've seen, it really is the over, I'd like to know just how many sites they're using now and how many will we add. Somebody can answer that.
I do know this main parking lot is what they're currently working on paving, and then much of the additional parking will also be provided in the rear. And then they also have that existing parking lot adjacent to Hunter Street as well, if that helps.
Not really, but
Okay, sorry.
I know that where they're going to improve, I just trying to figure out, in my mind, when I drove by and saw it, it looked like it was full now, how many more sites would be added?
Yeah, we were over there for a show the other night, and I will say the back of the building where they've done the paving, it was noticeable the number of additional spaces that have been created just by cleaning it up. Right? But I mean, quantifying it to parking requirements per 1,000 square foot of building, I think that's your question. Yeah. And
We are going to have a public hearing tonight. Mr. Allen, do you need this information, or are you comfortable after the public hearing? Okay, all right.
He looks like he has the answer. He's sitting on the edge
Okay.
of the seat. So let's ask him. How about that?
Oh,
And
okay,
yeah,
yes,
the
please.
applicant is
Yeah.
If you have the information, we'd love to hear.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Mike Hendrickson, and I'm the developer on this project. And so before we got our first TCO, we had to have 264, which was our original number. And so before we got that first TCO, which was sometime in April, before that first Yonder Mountain event that happened over there, we did have the 264. Now, since then, we're working on some of the space in the back, so some of those have been eliminated temporarily just while we get the work done. We've got to put a lot of underwater stormwater storage and all that kind of thing under there. So right now, if I had to give you a number right now today, we're probably at 240, 250, something in that range. So with this, we'll be adding about another 50-ish spaces. Okay,
Thank you so much.
great.
Okay. With that, I hereby open the public hearing.
Or nobody signed up.
Okay, well then, I hereby close the public hearing. This ordinance was introduced and seconded at the November 13th meeting, and if there are no additional questions or discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor of the ordinance rezoning properties at 1010 East Main Street to MXB, mixed business, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that passes 5-0. Yeah. All right. Item 8 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement to purchase 501 West Broad Street with Valley Star Credit Union. Mr. Wood?
Madam Mayor, members of Congress, those who got promoted.
demoted.
Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, circuit court judges have communicated the need for additional space in the Gorsuch building. Waynesboro Sheriff Chris Johnson also confirms the need for additional space to improve building security. In early 2020, Judge Paul Dreyer communicated that the entire second floor of the Gorsuch building should be made available for circuit court. To this end, the real estate assessor was relocated from the Gorsuch building to 116 South Wayne Avenue in February of 2022, and the registrar was temporarily relocated from the Gorsuch building to the lower floor of the Waynesboro Public Library in August of 2022. With the objective to establish permanent space for the registrar, staff have negotiated purchase of 501 West Broad Street, the previous Valley Star Credit Union building. The building is approximately 2,200 square feet. It is priced at $662,100. The drive-through, security features, and vault make the facility well-suited for the registrar's permanent needs. City Council is asked to approve the resolution authorizing the city to enter into the agreement to purchase the property, introduce an ordinance relocating the city's general registrar, and appropriate funds for this acquisition. These are item numbers 8, 9, and 10 on tonight's agenda. If you have questions, let us know.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wood?
No questions, but I'd like to make a statement.
Sure.
All right. Just so I'm clear, I wrote some things down here, so I'm going to state that I will not be supporting the purchase of this building or the allocation of funds for the reasons I will make known for the record. I do acknowledge that the building is well suited for the registrar's office and actually could not be more perfect for the registrar's needs. That being said, I can't support it for several reasons. One, I believe the cost is too much, and I also don't agree with payment terms. The purchase price is $232,300 over the assessed value, and I know how real estate is, and I know you're going to end up paying more, but I think that's a little bit on too much side. Before spending that money, the building should have been allowed to go on public market, in my opinion. Let the market decide the cost. Instead, the owners offered the city of Waynesboro, knowing that municipalities have a tendency to pay more than the private market. I also don't like the idea that most of the money, $551,100, will be paid on or before June 30th, 2024, which is in the next year. I'm just not in favor of spending money we don't have at this time. I also understand that registrar's original move was supposed to be temporary. I also understand there is a deadline to have the office moved before the next election cycle that is required by law. Even though temporary, the current location has, with some adjustments, met the needs of the office. I also know that the library has generously made concessions to accommodate the registrar's office, which has been inconvenient at times. Sometimes we all must make concessions until a better option is available, and I'm not convinced that the purchase of this building at the cost and terms provided are the best option. The office of the registrar at its current location should still be considered temporary until a more agreeable location is found or a more reasonable cost is presented. Also, we have discussed in the past the need for a registrar's assistant, and the fact that we can find money to purchase the building but not find the money for an assistant to help make the next election, which is going to be an enormous task, considering it's a presidential election along with primaries, to help make the next election as efficient and accurate as possible. To me, those priorities are just not in line. So, in my opinion, we do have the best registrar in the state. Our registrar, along with our electoral board, have done an unbelievable job over the years guaranteeing that the Waynesboro elections have been fair and accurate. And I don't want to take any resource away from them that would continue their record of excellence. But my job as a councilman, as I have promised every citizen, every single citizen of Waynesboro that I would be, is to be a good steward of the taxpayers' best interests. And I cannot in good conscience vote to approve to spend their hard-earned money on this particular building. So as we move forward, you know what my vote will be.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Then, is there a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the purchase agreement with Valley Star?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Short. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any further discussion?
I think I would just offer just a couple of rebuttals for to my colleague, just for conversation and just for the record. I think all of us are elected to represent and to are honored, truly, to be in a position to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. With the assistance of our remarkable staff, that work has been completed. The cost to facilitate the building construction and accommodation of the registrar at a future location would be demonstrably more expensive than this purchase. While inconvenient and inconveniently timed, I think all of us would agree to that. The opportunity cost is real and appropriate to make this this purchase at this time, and that's why I'll be voting in support of it. The next to the registrar assistant position, while advocated from our registrar for a number of years, as long as I can remember, maybe as long as Mr. Allen might can remember, I would also offer that we have advocated, as she has, for that additional support from the state. The city of Waynesboro does not set the electoral guidelines. The city of Waynesboro did not establish early voting parameters and access to the building that require additional staffing. We have advocated, and those calls have gone and fallen on deaf ears in Richmond. So I would continue to advocate for additional support from the state to facilitate the types of elections that they are requiring of every community in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And with that, I will yield.
Okay. Any other discussion? No? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
2 noes? Okay. That motion passes 3-2. Item 9 is to consider introducing an ordinance appropriating $662,100 for the purchase of 501 West Broad Street. Is there a motion to introduce the ordinance appropriating the funds for the purchase of 501 West Broad Street?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any discussion? Okay, this ordinance will receive final consideration at the December 11th regular business meeting. Item 10 is to consider introducing an ordinance relocating the Office of General Registrar to 501 West Broad Street. Is there a motion to introduce the ordinance relocating the office to General Registrar to 501 West Broad Street?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any discussion? And this ordinance will also receive final consideration at the December 11th regular business meeting. Item 11 is to consider adopting a resolution confirming an economic development performance agreement and associated incentive program for Northrop Grumman. Is Mr. Hitchin here this evening?
He is not.
I was told to call on him. Okay.
I can answer. I can.
Okay.
Council may recall that at the last meeting, we adopted a resolution that identified Northrop Grumman just as a Delaware corporation because the governor had not yet made his official announcement, and no one was allowed to say anything before the governor. So we, in transparency and for just making it extra legal, we wanted to ensure that the public knew that the resolution, the performance agreements, and relating to the tax incentives, as well as the COF grant with the Commonwealth of Virginia related to Northrop Grumman. And so I drafted this resolution for council to adopt, ratifying those 2 performance agreements. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? No? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the resolution confirming the performance agreement and incentive program?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that passes 5-0. Thank you, Melissa. Item 12 is communication, correspondence, and calendar, and comments from our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Wood. Do you have anything for
I
us?
do not.
Okay. That brings us to item 13, citizen comment period. Do we have anyone signed up?
We do not.
Oh, wow. Item 14, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Allen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Short. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Wow, 25 minutes.